Welcome to my live viewer. Welcome to anyone watching this video. To anyone who's new, this is a channel dedicated to the teachings of Bruno Gröning. So, Bruno spoke about the spiritual path as a fight, a battle. What on earth did he mean? Did he mean get a weapon and go out and attack things? This is just a practice. It's not a real knife. I don't believe that that's what he meant. My understanding of what he meant is that, hey Magdalena, that here on this earth, in a body, we're up against a very powerful force, which he called by many names: evil, disorder, dis-ease, and that it's a very powerful, mighty force, but it's not the almighty force. And I think that's the maybe one of the fundamental lacks of faith is thinking like, oh, evil or suffering or disease or just very simply the material world is the almighty. Well, Bruno said it like this: Satan is mighty, God is almighty. So we're up against this powerful force. And how does this force operate? Does it come at us with weapons? And not really. It comes at us with thoughts and maybe to a lesser extent energy and feelings. That's actually a question I have for Bruno. But primarily with thoughts. And we say yes or no to these thoughts, one thought at a time. And so how is this a fight? Well, I'm reminded of one night where I just got into bed and I wasn't falling asleep. And all of a sudden, like this strong thought came: you're not going to fall asleep. I was like, whoa, where did that come from? I'm just lying here feeling mellow. And then there was like this strong thought, almost like something was yelling at me. I mean, not really, but the energy of yelling. I was like, whoa. And luckily I caught it. Because, right, if I hadn't caught it, then I would have been like, oh, I'm not going to sleep. Oh, I should just get up, or, oh, poor me. But luckily I caught it, and I was like, no, that's a negative thought. That's an untrue negative thought. And so for 40 minutes, I was like, I'm going to fall asleep. And then negative thought, negative thought, negative thought. And I'd be like, no, I'm going to fall asleep. And it was literally a battle. And I think that's more the battle that Bruno was talking about. And sometimes it is a battle to believe, a struggle, a fight, to believe that something will heal. Or, here's where it can get even trickier, when something doesn't heal immediately, to still have faith in God. Because that's in my own journey, and I don't think I'm alone in this, it's when bad things happen. Hey, Jason. Oh, Jason, hi. When bad things happen, the human race seems to have this habit of thinking, well, there is no God, or God's not fair, or life isn't fair, or this shouldn't be happening. And those are all just expressions of a lack of faith. And I don't sit here saying that I've mastered faith by any means. And that's the fight, that's the struggle. At least that's my understanding of what Bruno meant by all of this. By fight or struggle. He called it a Krieg. My German listeners will know what that means. My English-speaking listeners, guess what? We've already heard that expression. It's from World War II. Well, it's not. It predates that, but we've heard the expression Blitzkrieg, right? Blitz means fast. Krieg, attack, war, battle, struggle. That's the word Krieg that Bruno used to describe this. That's not all struggle, but Bruno called us to take it very seriously. And please check for yourselves. Read what Bruno wrote. Tune in. Don't believe me. Bruno asked us not to believe him. He did ask us to trust in him. Now that's, I've been really sitting with that. What does it mean to follow Bruno Gröning, or to sometimes, because Bruno didn't start a religion. He didn't want to start a religion. It's easy to say, oh, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Hindu, or a Buddhist. That has a very clear meaning. There's different variations, but regardless. But so what do we, when talking about those of us who are fans, some of us big fans of Bruno Gröning, what does that mean? Well, I've gone through phases where I've been like, well, everything that Bruno said is true. Wasn't quite so conscious, but just like, oh, Bruno said it, so it's true. Well, that's one way. I don't think that's the way Bruno wanted it. Bruno said, don't be gullible. Convince yourself of the truth. And I want to look up the German word for gullible. If anyone knows it, please type it in. Google says it is
leichtgläubig.
Leichtgläubig. So that's a strong word. Gullible. And I don't know what it is in German, but in English, it's kind of an insult. Someone who's gullible will just believe anything, or even, believe, okay. Leichtgläubig. Okay. So it looks like I got the right word.
Leichtgläubig.
Leichtgläubig. So, in English, that's in Dutch. Okay, so we probably got the right word in German. That's really an insult. Someone who's gullible is just believes anything, and Bruno's telling us, don't be gullible. Don't be gullible on matters of things that are spiritual and religious. Believe too quickly. Boom. In English, again, it's really an insult to say that someone's gullible. To say someone's gullible is like, oh, they're stupid. They believe nonsense. I think what Bruno was imparting was really investigate, really find out. Now, of course, in matters of religion and spirituality, this isn't an easy process. And it's so much easier to say, oh, well, Bruno said, Bruno's a master, and he said, da-da-da, so it's true. I've done it. I still do it sometimes. Or it's so easy to say, well, the Bible says, or the Bhagavad Gita says, or your favorite spiritual teacher says, so it's true. But that's not what Bruno called us to, and it actually doesn't make it true. That's just a belief. So we have to verify it in our own experience. I'm going to read something, one of my favorite spiritual quotes. So, yes, Magdalena said research, take it seriously. So this is a quote from an author named Alice Bailey, and I think this sums up how Bruno called us to. The Lord Buddha has said, so just a little background, in one of the earliest Buddhist scriptures, the Buddha, in essence, it's written that the Buddha said that we really have to find out for ourselves whether or not something is true. And here's Alice Bailey expressing that. The Lord Buddha has said that we must not believe in a thing said merely because it is said, nor tradition, because they've been handed down from antiquity, nor rumors as such, nor writings by sages, because sages wrote them, nor fancies that we may suspect to have been inspired by a deva. The word deva can mean different things, generally in this context an angel, that is presumed spiritual inspiration, nor from inferences drawn from some haphazard assumption we have made, nor because of what seems an analogical necessity. I have to look that up, analogical necessity, nor on the mere authority of our teachers or masters. But we are to believe when the writing, doctrine, or saying is corroborated by our own reason and consciousness. For this, says he in concluding, I taught you not to believe merely because you have heard, but when you have believed of your consciousness, then to act accordingly and abundantly. So I think that's a lot of fancy words, some of which I need to look up myself. And Magdalena said it so well. Don't be naive. Don't think something is true just because it's in a scripture, just because a master, and we all may have different definitions of master, but I consider Bruno to be a master. Just because a master said it, just because some joker on YouTube said it, just because it's been believed for thousands of years, just because it's claimed to be the wisdom of a great teacher, just because we heard a voice that we think is an angel or we think is an inspired voice. But as Magdalena so beautifully said, like the quest for truth is, it's a profound exploration. And it's not, books are not the way. Books can be part of the way. YouTube videos are not the way. Bruno Gröning said, I've come to restore the natural human instinct. There's something within us. And when he says human, I don't believe he's talking about the biological aspect. But there's something deep within us that knows, that's connected to God, that knows what's right and what's not right, what's true and what's not true. But we've become followers. I think I'm recovering from being a follower. I think we all are. And in every sense of the word, but especially in matters of religion and spirituality. And then, of course, I played all this out onto Bruno Gröning and his teachings, as I think many of us do. So those are a few of my thoughts for today on the spiritual battle and Bruno's. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I think the human race. Bruno Gröning once said, "I am the only human being that doesn't have any opinions." So I don't believe he meant that he was the only human being throughout history, but I think what he meant is the only human being at that time where he just got his knowledge directly. So what I used to do with that statement is like, oh, Bruno Grüning doesn't have any opinions. What he's saying is true. But that's a slippery slope. But so what I do with that now is like, oh, all the things I think are true that I haven't verified in my direct experience, in the deepest part of my being, oh, that's just an opinion. Maybe it's an opinion with some evidence. Maybe it's an opinion that I really think is true, but it's still just an opinion. So let's really learn to listen to God so we can come to know. I think, we think of know as like, oh, I have this knowledge or I have this information. I think know is more like just know it in the depths of our bones. And that's just an expression. I think really we just know it in the depths of our soul. And it's a subtle exploration. Feeling inside. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in and taking the time to watch. Thanks for participating, Magdalena and Jason. And thanks. Jason wrote, I always enjoy how you ponder a thought. Like every thought is special and meaningful. I appreciate that. Thank you. I learned that from my friend Bruno Grüning. Now here's an example. Bruno said thoughts are forces. He said the thought moves the person to deed. Okay, so that's an idea. And we can believe it, but to really know it, here's how I came to know, holy blankety blank, that's true, is I observed my thoughts and I observed my behavior. And what I came to notice is that before every action, there was almost always a thought. And I would notice that before almost every decision, there was a thought that I said yes to, oftentimes without even really being aware of it. And so that's one example of how, that's one thing where I'm like, yep, Bruno's right. Like it's not a belief for me. It's something I've verified in my own experience. And that quote from Alice Bailey, it says, in your own consciousness, I would say in your own experience is where we need to verify things. And well, I would love to. I'm able to stop the thoughts for periods of time, but my understanding is more learning which thoughts to say yes to, and I would say stop the habit of saying yes to automatic thoughts and saying yes to negative thoughts. Yes, to deflect. Say, no, thank you. All right, beautifuls. Have a beautiful day. Let's watch our thoughts. Let's really ask the question, how do I know what I know? And I don't want to talk anyone out of their particular beliefs, or that's not my job. But I do want to call people to an inquiry of, is this something I know in the depths of my being, or is this something that I just deeply believe? And it's okay. It's okay to believe things, but let's strive to know things. Take care. Much love.